everybody, and welcome to the LifeWise Vision Cast. We are riding a high a little bit, having just come out of the LifeWise Summit. We had over 800 LifeWisers from all over the country coming together, leaders, teachers, board members, coming together to be inspired, to celebrate, and to be equipped for this next school year. I was fortunate enough to receive quite the kingly gift from our COO. I received this LifeWise Letterman jacket, and so here I even have some of my pins from the summit, and I'm excited to sport this. It's a little warm right now, but as winter approaches, I'll be excited to sport this. But I thought, since we just had our summit, and behind me is a photo of the summit from 2023, that we should update our photo to the 2024 summit. Look at that. We had to get the drone out this year. It was pretty exciting. It was a special time together. So today for the LifeWise Vision Cast, again, we always cover two things. We spend some time on the big picture, and then we do some LifeWise storytelling. We are going to begin a 4-part series for our big picture time. We're going to talk about surprisingly complementary flavor pairings of LifeWise Academy. That's right, I said surprisingly complementary flavor pairings. You know how with food, you'll often have these flavors that you put together. You would never think they would go well together, but they do go incredibly well. I remember eating, not too long ago, I went to this interesting grilled cheese place that had a grilled cheese glazed donut. And it was like one of the most amazing things I've ever had. I went ahead and Googled this morning, what are some of these flavor pairings that are interesting? And apparently people say that putting jalapeno cheese on apple pie is good. I also read that olive oil on top of vanilla ice cream is good. And then perhaps the strangest I read was that mixing together a hard-boiled egg with crunchy peanut butter is apparently good. That sounds kind of gross to me. But of course, the most perhaps famous surprisingly complementary flavor pairing would be the Wendy's Frosty with fries. Have you ever dipped your hot, crunchy, salty fries into that cold, creamy, sweet chocolate Frosty? If you haven't, you need to go out and do that right now. I would have it with me for this video if it weren't early in the morning that we are recording this. But in any case, we like to think that what makes LifeWise and kind of this LifeWise special sauce to keep the culinary imagery going would be our surprisingly complementary flavor pairings, these juxtapositions, these pairings within the ministry that are kind of surprising. And so I wanted to take 4 vision casts, these next 4, to cover 4 things, these juxtapositions around our people, our Bible education philosophy, our operational philosophy, and our history. And so real quick, our people, we talk about our people around our core values. And I know we've already kind of chatted about this on the Vision Cast, but our core values are twofold: commitment and competence. And we've discussed how these two things sadly don't go together that much, that in the nonprofit Christian ministry world, you'll often have people with incredible commitment, incredible hearts, the right motivations, but maybe sometimes not focusing enough on having the right competence and skill and talent. And then in the business world, the private world, you'll have kind of the opposite. You'll have people with incredible competence, skill, talent, know-how, but maybe not always doing things for the right reason. And with LifeWise, we want to hold these two things together. This is our complementary flavor pairing, that we're holding together the right heart and the right skill, commitment and competence, these things that can seem mutually exclusive, but they really go together. And so a couple things. Number one, just want to define what we mean when we say commitment and we say competence. Commitment, we talk about 4 things: being vision-centric, so having our vision to reach students, to take the gospel to students at the center of everything we do. We're going to make tough decisions that others might think are kind of wild because it's for the sake of the vision. We're driven by the vision. We're going to be servant-minded, not seeking to serve ourselves, but to serve others, to serve students, to serve families, to serve schools. We're going to be growth-oriented. That's part of being committed, is that we're going to always be looking to get better, to be asking the question, how can we improve? How can we be moving forward? And then ultimately, we are going to be hard working. We're going to go the extra mile. We're going to do what it takes to get the job done. So that's what we mean by committed. And then in terms of competent, what do we mean? We mean being strategic. We're going to try to think long term. We're going to try to see all the angles, and we're going to try to think really hard and do the right strategic thing. Number two, we're going to be innovative. We're not going to be bound by just what has been done in the past, but we're going to think of new and better ways to get things done. We're going to be problem solving. And so we won't be a victim of our circumstances. We'll say, hey, here's a new problem. That's okay. Let's put our heads together. Let's solve it. And then finally, in terms of competence, we are going to pursue the highest standards of simply excellence. And we've talked about this before, that we are the King's ambassadors, and so we are going to do things with excellence. That's all what we mean by committed and competent. And ultimately, we need to understand that these core values of ours, this flavor pairing, should be both descriptive and aspirational. So it should already describe us. And as we're seeking to grow our team and to find new directors and teachers and board members, that type of thing, we should be looking for people who are already committed and competent. So it's descriptive. At the same time, it's aspirational, because we'll never be perfectly committed, perfectly competent. And so we should always be growing and growing toward these ideals of committed and competent. And so that's the first surprisingly complementary flavor pairing of the LifeWise secret sauce. That's our vision section. And now we get to hear a story, a LifeWise story. We're joined by Veronica Haile, our director at Shadyside in Belmont, Ohio. Veronica, are you there?
Hello.
Hello, Veronica. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for everything you're doing as a director. Veronica, first off, could you just share kind of your LifeWise story? How did you get connected? How did you find yourself being the director of LifeWise Academy?
When Wayne Cooper heard about LifeWise, he became our champion here in Shadyside, and the first person he talked to happened to be my pastor. So my pastor had a luncheon and invited all the local pastors to come and learn about LifeWise. And Jonathan came from Pennsylvania and did a presentation. I was on the hospitality committee, so I was serving at that luncheon, and I got to hear Jonathan's presentation. And I thought, wow, that's really going to be a cool thing. I was immediately drawn to the mission. Like, this is great. And I was on vacation. It took a couple of months. I was on vacation in Florida when Wayne actually called my husband and said, so I've been calling all the churches and asking for recommendations of people from their church to be on our steering committee, and your pastor gave me your husband and your name. And so he said, we would like either one or both of you to consider being on the steering committee. And my husband and I talked about it. And sometimes his schedule makes him be on call, and he might not be available for meetings. But since we moved here, I was a teacher in Arkansas, but I didn't transfer my license, so I was not working. And so we decided that I would be a better fit for the steering committee because I had more time on my hands. And after the steering committee, when they were looking for a director, I called Wayne and I said, I just updated my resume because I was going to apply for a temporary position at my husband's job. And his boss said, no, I don't want to hire both of you because then if I lose one employee, I lose two. And I was kind of disappointed because I spent a long time updating that resume. And I said, how about I just give you my resume and see if y'all would like to hire me for the director. And so they had a meeting without me and read my resume and then called and offered me the position.
That is amazing. It's so interesting to hear just the timing of, how you were pursuing employment and to think about how the Lord has been preparing you. It's really interesting for me to hear that you were an educator in Arkansas. Please tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about, if you could, as a former, would I be correct in assuming you were a public school educator, Veronica?
Yes.
Yeah, so you, as a former public school educator, now serving public school students in LifeWise, how do you see the value of LifeWise contributing to public school students from your, being a former public school educator?
I see the value because we're equipping students to deal with everything that's going on in their life in a positive way. And that we're teaching them that, that there's a God that loves them and that they can take everything to Him. And some kids don't have anybody but God to take their problems and issues to. So, and I see friendships forming in LifeWise. And as an educator, that's important to know that kids have a friend at school, somebody that they can go with, and share and not be the loner.
Sure.
And we've seen that happen in our program just this year, where friends have been there for, formed and been there for each other.
Well, Veronica, I know that one of the things that you've let us know about is that you have a great relationship with the school personnel there, which is incredible. I'm not necessarily surprised to hear that for a couple of reasons. Number one, that's pretty typical that our directors would have great working relationships. But number two, because you are a former public educator, maybe tell me a little bit about that relationship. Tell me about what you're hearing from the staff about the impact of LifeWise.
Okay, so I have a teacher who is also a mother, and she approached me and told me that her daughter loves LifeWise and that she is learning so much about the Bible and that she appreciates what we're doing. I've had that by several of the staff or the teachers. Even the janitor has stopped me and told me, "Thank you for what y'all are doing. This is a good thing for the kids."
Well, I know it's, like I said, that tends to be the theme, for whatever reason. Well, for reasons school personnel can't necessarily publicly come out and say, overtly encourage students to attend and, promote LifeWise because they need to a certain degree, remain neutral. However, it is very typical that school personnel, at least the ones I interact with, will say, "I love this program. I love the investment it is into the lives of students." I remember sitting with a principal who said, "Hey, whatever it is you guys are doing over there in that LifeWise building, you guys keep it up because I see the impact in students." Veronica, is there anything else you'd want to share about what's happening with your program?
In our community, we have 6 of the 7 churches involved, which I think is amazing.
Wow.
I had three pastors who served as volunteers. We had pastors from different denominations working together in the classroom last year. That was pretty amazing to see. And I'm learning new people. I've only been in Shadyside for 6 years, and so I'm getting to meet people and form relationships with people. And that's good, to know the people that I live with and work with and I'm around. We saw the kids at our Loop Festival, and they were so excited. We had the thank you card that they gave us posted at our booth, and they were all coming up and talking to me about LifeWise and pretty excited about it. We did poll the 6th grade parents to see if we should go to the high school because 7th grade is in our high school. And we did not get all of them to respond, but out of the 12 responses we got, 11 of them said, yes, we want LifeWise in 7th grade. So that is where we are going this year, is to the high school to have it for the 7th graders.
Veronica, my heart is so warmed just hearing about this because you're painting a picture of what LifeWise really can be in a community, unifying churches around the mission of the gospel, serving the public school, serving the students, the way relationships are being formed. It's very clear you are doing a great job. You are such a blessing. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. Please pass along our thanks to your team, and really appreciate it, Veronica.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, that is the Vision Cast. Thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to seeing you next week.